At first glance, it's just a jumble of stone. A strange open field in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. 80 acres of jagged, time-worn boulders scattered like forgotten ruins. Unsuspecting visitors might hike the area, expecting a scenic view or a quiet picnic spot, until someone lifts a hammer and strikes a stone. It doesn't thud. It rings. A clean, bell-like chime that lingers in the air, bright, metallic, unexpected. The sound bounces from rock to rock like an echo in a cathedral. This is no legend. It's real. These are the ringing rocks, a rare, natural lithophone. Similar fields exist in parts of England, Australia, and New South Wales, but none quite like this one. Scientists have studied them for years. The rocks are volcanic diabase, rich in iron and unusually dense. But density alone doesn't explain their sound. Some theories point to tensional stress, that the rocks, locked in place and pressed against one another just so, store energy like a drawn bowstring. Others blame long-term freeze-thaw cycles, reshaping the stones internally over millions of years. And then there's the land itself. Some visitors say that the area feels off. The air is heavier there. Time passes slower. Birds won't nest among the rocks. Plants don't grow there. Compasses behave erratically. Local native legends once called it sacred. Early settlers whispered about curses. Some swore the ground was hollow. Others claimed the stones held power. The ringing rocks remain unsolved. A quiet field that sings back when touched. A mystery locked inside the bones of the earth. And when you stand in that silence, hammer in hand, listening to stone answer with song, you can't help but wonder what else the earth is still keeping. In the heart of Lebanon's Bekaa Valley stands one of the ancient world's most mind-bending mysteries, Baalbek. Once called Heliopolis, the city of the sun, this sprawling temple complex dazzles with Roman columns and ornate ruins. But it's not the visible grandeur that confounds historians. It's what lies beneath. 3 stones, or rather, 3 impossibilities. They're called the Trilithon, a trio of limestone blocks so massive, so impossibly huge, that their very existence defies reason. Each one weighs between 800 and 1,000 tons. That's the weight of 2 fully loaded 747s. And yet, they were carved with surgical precision, aligned edge to edge, and somehow lifted more than 20 feet into place. The mystery doesn't end there. Just outside the temple site in the ancient quarry lies the Stone of the Pregnant Woman, a monolith still half buried in earth, estimated at over 1,200 tons. Then in 2014, a team of German archaeologists unearthed an even larger stone beneath it. This one, untouched for millennia, is believed to weigh more than 1,600 tons. It is the largest single stone block ever carved by human hands. But no records explain how these stones were moved. The Romans, masters of engineering, never mentioned the feat. And no evidence has ever been found of the machinery needed to pull it off. No cranes, no pulleys, no sledges. Moving just one of these blocks today would require custom-built super cranes and months of logistical planning. Some researchers suggest a lost technology, a forgotten method of lifting, transporting, or softening stone. Others believe the Trilithon predates the Romans entirely, evidence of a pre-cataclysmic civilization with knowledge we've long since lost. And then there are the myths. Stories say giants built Baalbek. Others claim the platform was created by the Anunnaki, sky gods from Mesopotamian legend. Alien beings who descended to Earth and needed a launch pad for their return. Today, Baalbek remains a place of worship and of wonder. We know the names of the gods. We've cataloged the architecture. But these stones are still a mystery. In the heart of the Arabian desert lies a forgotten oasis, a place called Tayma, once a thriving crossroads of ancient trade, power, and prophecy. And buried beneath its shifting sands, archaeologists discovered something astounding. These are the Tayma Stones, massive inscribed tablets etched with texts in Aramaic, Akkadian, and Proto-Arabic, carved with astonishing precision into slabs of sandstone and basalt. But it's not just the language that captivates. It's the story they tell. Among these inscriptions is a name that sent shockwaves through the world of ancient history. Nabonidus, the last king of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. These stones suggest something long debated, but never confirmed. That this powerful ruler abandoned Babylon and fled to the oasis of Tayma. According to the inscriptions, Nabonidus didn't just visit. He lived there, built temples, and made offerings to foreign gods. In one carved decree, he commands that locals worship the moon god Sin, a deity far from the traditional Babylonian pantheon. It's a staggering moment in recorded history. A king renouncing the capital of his empire, turning his back on Marduk, and rewriting the religious order. Why did he leave? What was his reason? Some say divine visions. Others whisper of political upheaval or creeping madness. But the Tayma Stones don't offer answers. They offer statements, etched in stone and left to be interpreted millennia later. Their language is clear, but their intentions remain murky. One stone, nearly 6 feet tall, speaks of building projects, tribute, and divine favor. But another, more damaged inscription hints at conflict, dissent, and possible exile. Was Nabonidus a spiritual reformer, or a dethroned ruler hiding in the desert? Was Tayma his sanctuary, or his prison? After his stay in Tayma, Nabonidus vanishes from history. Not long after, Babylon falls to Cyrus the Great of Persia. The Tayma oasis eventually recedes into myth, but the stones remained. Today, several Tayma inscriptions are housed in the Louvre Museum, far from their original home. Others remain on site, guarded and studied, but still only partially understood. They are like echoes of a time when kings could vanish into the desert and leave only stone to tell the tale. Before the modern world began to dig beneath the surface of Earth, before geology, archaeology, and carbon dating, there were the Thunderstones. Scattered across ancient landscapes, buried in fields, unearthed in riverbanks, found on top of mountains, these strange chiseled stones were seen as gifts from the gods, or warnings from the heavens. To those who discovered them, they were not tools from a forgotten time. They were weapons hurled by lightning itself. Peasants, kings, and priests believed these mysterious, often axe-shaped stones had fallen from the sky during thunderstorms. They were called Thunderstones in Europe, sky axes in Asia, and lightning rocks across parts of Africa and the Americas. Their discovery often coincided with some cosmic event: a storm, an eclipse, a fire in the sky. To touch one was to hold a fragment of the divine, but what were they really? Centuries later, science gave them a new name: Neolithic hand axes, flint tools, prehistoric artifacts. They were the early tools of early humans, shaped and sharpened for survival. Some date back tens of thousands of years. But to the people who found them long after they'd been forgotten, the idea of ancient civilizations wasn't even a concept. So the explanation became myth, and the myth stuck. In parts of medieval Europe, thunderstones were nailed above doors to ward off evil and protect homes from lightning strikes. Farmers in India believed they could protect crops from drought. In China, they were ground into powder and used in medicine, thought to cure ailments brought on by angry spirits. Even as late as the 18th century, educated scholars argued fiercely over their origins. Were they naturally formed during lightning strikes? Were they evidence of a great flood? Or were they, as one theory suggested, weapons dropped by angels in a war between heaven and earth? Today, thousands of thunderstones sit in museum drawers, cataloged, dated, and labeled as hand axes. But a few still rest in forgotten drawers, family heirlooms believed to carry luck, or curse, or cosmic weight. They're remnants of an era when myth stood in for memory, and when a sharp piece of flint wasn't just a tool, it was a message from a storm. For centuries, it haunted kings, alchemists, and scholars. A legendary substance whispered about in candlelit laboratories and hidden texts. It was said to hold the power to transform lead into gold, to grant eternal life. They called it the Philosopher's Stone. Not a single stone, but a concept, an artifact, a lost technology, perhaps even a physical material that once existed and then vanished. Somewhere between science, spirituality, and sorcery. The idea of the Philosopher's Stone didn't begin with Harry Potter or fantasy novels. It traces back to early alchemical traditions, especially in Islamic, Indian, and later European schools of thought. The stone was the ultimate goal of the great work, the magnum opus, a quest not just for wealth but for perfection, both material and spiritual. Alchemists like Nicolas Flamel, a real 14th century French scribe, were said to have discovered its secrets. Legends claim Flamel successfully created the stone, gained immortality, and vanished into history with its power sealed away. Centuries later, his tomb was found empty. Others chased the stone across entire lifetimes. Isaac Newton, the same man who gave us the laws of gravity, devoted years of his life to alchemy, obsessively annotating manuscripts, convinced the Philosopher's Stone could be real. To men like Newton, this wasn't magic. It was undiscovered science. Descriptions of the stone vary. Some say it looked like crimson glass, glowing from within. Others claimed it was powdered red gold, a tincture that could transmute anything it touched. In some traditions, it wasn't a stone at all, but an agent, a catalyst for transformation, both physical and metaphysical. But here's where it grows stranger. Over and over, these historical records refer to the Philosopher's Stone not as a thing to be possessed, but as a test, a sacred object that reveals itself only to those who understand its deeper meaning. Not just the formula, but the philosophy behind it. To reach the stone, you had to become something more than human. You had to transform yourself first. And maybe that's why it was never found, because it was never just about gold or immortality. It was about the pursuit itself, about the idea that hidden in matter and mind was a secret capable of rewriting reality. Even today, long after modern chemistry has replaced alchemy, the myth of the Philosopher's Stone endures. Not as a joke, not as fantasy, but as a symbol of the impossible, of a truth that maybe, just maybe, was lost, rather than imagined. Could it have existed? Sure. Or it could have been the perfect illusion, bait to pull humanity closer to the edges of what's real.
Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fireside Unsolved. If you haven't already, please like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, take it easy and be easy, you filthy bastards.